Most of sub-Saharan Africa's population has access to formal banking systems. In low-income communities, the degree to which individuals can access financial services is still very limited. FSD Africa, a market facilitator, is targeting to change the narrative by ensuring more than 3 million people in the continent have access to financial services by 2019. We caught up with Paul Musoke, who's the Director for Change Management and Building Services Markets at FSD Africa, for more on this. Take a look.
FSD Africa is a DFID funded company limited by guarantee. And what we try to do is develop market systems that are efficient. So what we do is identify the failures within the financial market systems on the continent, try to address those failures through providing technical assistance, providing research, and also providing funding to help to address these failures. Because we believe that efficient, robust market systems are really going to be at the center of how Africa's economies are going to grow.
And what have been the most predominant market failures that FSD Africa has really begun rallying around and working on?
Yeah, actually one of the areas that we see a big problem within Africa, the area where I look after, change management and building services markets. And it's really about the capacity of the financial sector to be able to address the needs of the environment they're operating in. We find that the formal sector or banking sector is very focused on addressing the needs of the formal sector, which is what the rest of the world does, and this is what we have been told. But our environment is quite different. We're dealing with customers who we don't really know, and there is no history about how they are banked, how they are looked after. And there's lots of development around technology that the financial sector, or the people running the financial institutions, you find they struggle to respond to these needs because the capacity has not been developed. So we believe it's developing that capacity to enable the leaders and people within the financial sector to address these needs more effectively is a key failure that we're addressing.
And how would rectifying that failure in particular shift the dial when it comes to financial inclusion? Is there a tangible relationship, almost of causality, if we say, if we fix this, this is what we expect to result?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at some of the great results that we've got, whether it's M-Pesa, M-Shwari, if you look closely, they've tried to move them to other countries, and they haven't taken off as well. And we believe it's because there's been a lot of support provided for the pioneers to be able to take these things to scale. But when someone tries to copy it in another environment where that capacity is not, it actually affects how well it takes off. So we think it's a cross-cutting thing across the continent, that the local people who are within those environments need to actually be helped to upskill their ability to take on these new kind of technologies and address the needs of the people who are actually excluded, who are still the majority of the population in Africa.
Absolutely, and of course M-Pesa not taking off in South Africa as well as other markets. But let's link the work that you're doing and let's link that with the broader imperative to see poverty reduction in African markets. Is there a close relationship or line of sight in terms of FSD Africa and the general ambition to reduce and alleviate poverty?
I think so. At the end of the day, the financial sector is at the core of the economy and how it develops. We find that the financial sector is quite inefficient in terms of intermediating. Most of the GDP within Africa is not being intermediated into productive sectors. And if that's done, then it should be able to lead to growth in industries, growth in SMEs, and growth in incomes. So we believe that at the center of every economy is the financial sector performing in a robust, responsive, and efficient way. So that's really where our core focus is, and that's the link we see towards poverty. So it's really about growth. It's about productivity that will pull these people out of poverty, not just access.
Right.
Yes.
And just as a final question, beyond access, there have been arguments that suggest that usage, perhaps, of financial services and products isn't as at the level where it could be. How do we drive usage as well so that we're counting the real numbers and not just the numbers that denote access?
Yeah, I think at the core of that, and I probably touched on it, is that the customers we're targeting, we don't really understand their needs. We don't know them that well. There is really no history about targeting this kind of customer. and the products we're developing are not as appropriate for them. So what happens is that he gets to use it initially, but then because he's not addressing a need, he doesn't come back. So I think the whole focus of customer centricity and everything that we do, try to understand that client. We're going to develop the capacity eventually to be able to come up with products that adds value to him and eventually adds value to the financial sector and the economy as a whole.